very good at. And, we are people who do a lot of the same things a lot, for years. And they're very, very important practices, but they can lose their shine and really the impact. And so I think one of the, the powerful parts of this program is just kind of looking at things through a different lens and maybe trying some new things that you haven't done. It doesn't mean that you're going to do this forever, but I do encourage you to, jump on board and give it a shot, because you won't know if you don't try it. To those who have not jumped on board yet, this is a program of progress, not perfection. I'm inviting you. I'm also going to respect you if you're in a place where it's like, man, I'm not ready to do that. That's okay. Just, go at your pace. But if you really are wanting to make the most of this, we're together for another month. There's amazing miracles that can happen. I'm having, the thing for me is I've been doing this for so long personally. I've been teaching it for a good long minute. I've got to practice what I preach. It's not just a process, because then that process can get old. And so for me, it's this, I'll let you in a little bit more and more on my ministry. I usually recap the day. But first of all, James, thank you. And Elena for allowing me to share the pulpit with you. And it means a lot. And I'm excited about the State College in Fredericksburg and Pittsburgh. This is, it's exciting. I heard I was doing something here in my office, but it sounds like there's a brother from, it's in El Salvador or something. Did I hear that right? That's encouraging. Well, that's good. I'm glad. Well, brother, thank you for coming on in with us. No guilt, no shame, not allowed during this process. At the end of the 40 days, if you want to pick it up again, then we can refund you your pain and misery. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. But I know how a lot of us are wired. It's like, oh man, I didn't do it again today. How come I always, quit on things that I say I'm going to do? Why don't I finish what I start? Oh man, I forgot about it today. And you start, I don't know, there might be somebody out there that's playing those tapes in their head, because we feel kind of compelled, especially when the whole church is doing something. That's not what this is about. This is about breaking some habits that have not been serving you and replacing them with habits that fill you with a fresh kind of energy, a fresh faith. It's combining deeds with your faith. And if you do it, then next week, like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit more, but you know that I refer to my brain as Uncle G. Uncle G is not me. It is an organ. My lungs, my kidneys, my liver, my heart, my brain, they are organs. All of them will be in a box one day, and earth will return to earth, or ashes to ashes, and whatever is in that box is not me. All right. The real me is the watcher of that organ, that I'm paying attention, that I am tasked with programming my brain. If you let the world program your brain, it is a scary time to be alive. We're living, and wait till 24, it's getting ready to get live. It's going to be colorful next year. It's already leading up to that. But if we just let the world do it, and we think that, studying the same things and praying the same way and doing the same stuff is going to get it. A lot of people are saying, no, it's not getting for me. It's not getting me where I need to be. I've got to have something new. And so this is a chance to do that. So Uncle G, original Google, original GPS, original gangster. If you don't watch him, he'll try to run things. It's the only organ that tries to talk to you all day long in your voice. To where we start listening. We've heard the voice in the head for so many years and decades that we don't differentiate between me, the soul, the spirit, the watcher, and this fascinating organ, 3.5 pounds of gray fatty matter teeming with electromagnetic energy, with a quadrillion number of connections. That's a real number. You've got over 100 billion brain cells, nerve cells, neurons that are connecting together. When neurons fire together, they wire together. And so whether it's, taking a new route to a new job every day, at first you're having to pay attention to Alexa or Siri, whoever you're listening to, as she guides you. And then the more you do it, and then finally it's just autopilot. You don't have to do it anymore, because you literally got a little pathway of neurons that are woven together. And Uncle G is going to allow you to do what you need to do, and he's going to take care of the rest. That's how habits form, okay? And so sometimes we have to break out of the habit in order to get something new. Now, understand this. Uncle G, the brain, is going to hold on to a habit until you force him to let it go. And imagine if God did not give us a brain like that. You'd have to be relearning the same things over and over and over, and you wouldn't be able to get anything done. So this fascinating technology that might be the highest form of technology sophisticated in the universe, for all we know, it's able to do immeasurably more than we have a clue. But you've got to be at the helm. You've got to be guiding the ship, or he will run things. And so this is about retraining the brain. Now, the questions of Jesus, hopefully, those have been, we did one last week. And the questions that Jesus asked, in my opinion, they're meant to draw the heart out. And then out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So in sales, asking good questions is paramount. Whether it's being a counselor or a teacher or a preacher or an attorney, asking good questions so you can draw out the heart and see where somebody's mind is. That's very, very important. Jesus was a master. He asked incredible questions. Last week, he said, do you want to get well, to a gentleman who had been in the same state for 38 years, okay? Now, that might seem like a long time. I've been around the sun 59 times, okay? There are certain things that I've been dealing with for 38 years. I would ask you if it's the same for you. For those that have been around for a minute, those been around for the church, it's that thing, I mean, I think I preached on it the very first lesson for that Sunday. It's your thorn. It's the thing that keeps you, that keeps me humble. Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's supposed to dominate me and control me. It's supposed to, keep me humble, keep me from being vain. But that thorn is a gift. We learn to value it, use it to make us better. So I want you tonight, we're going to be thinking about, what is that thing? That thing where if this thing toppled, it's like dominoes. I mean, everything would start rolling. But it's the thing that tends to dog you. It's the thing that a lot of times might be where the center of your guilt is, where your stress is located, where your fear is located. It's this toxic little dark spot that all of us have our shadows. All of us have our tendencies, our proclivities, our little idiosyncrasies, and we have to learn to manage them. But like I talked about that week, if I love certain things about myself and I hate certain things, I'm a divided man. And it's very, very hard to live like that. Divided kingdom can't stand. In the same way, if I'm double-minded, if I hate certain aspects of myself, why not go to work using these steps to dismantle some of the things and untangle some of the things and shine light on some of the dark spots, because that's where dis-ease lives, is in little dark spots. It's how cancer lives in our body. It's dark little toxic spots that begin to take over the light. We're beings of light, literally. Photons of light are what heal our bodies. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to go in there and untangle and unpack the areas of our lives that have become a problem and maybe been a problem for years. For some of us, it might be a mental thing. That's part of our job, is to work on our mind. And I've been real open about my journey through working on my mind and working with the brain, the fascinating brain that God gave me, just like he wanted it to be, although it is challenging at times. For some, it might be emotional. It might be a forgiveness issue. Unforgiveness is toxic. Resentment is very easy. It can be, with a spouse, with a child, with a friend, with a preacher, didn't mean anything, James, with a co-worker. It can be an enemy. But as Mandela said, he said, resentment is like drinking poison and hoping your enemy gets sick. It's like, that don't work. It's only hurting me. So it could be a mental thing for you. It could be emotional. It could be physical. For some of us, there are things that we could do to just be healthier and take care of our vessel and stay on the planet longer for our loved ones. I mean, there are literally things, you know what they are, whether it be, exercise, diet, rest, learning to rest the mind, loving relationships, the things that are healthy for the body. For some, it might be physical. And those things, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, those all affect our spiritual being. Okay. And so when Jesus asked last week, do you want to get well? I cautioned you and said, pump the brakes. Don't just jump on there and say yes. In the same way that we counted the cost of following him, I believe he wants us to count the cost of getting well, because some of us, and when I say some of us, I'm talking about me, and I'm saying maybe some of you. But for me, these little dark spots, these little parts of our nature, that hold us hostage, they can almost become like little pets to us, where we don't like it. We'd rather not have it. But it can be, and I'm not trying to tell anything on you. You got to figure you out, but it can become an excuse. This weakness is an excuse for me why I don't do this or that or this or that. For me, it was addiction. I blame my father, man. He was my excuse, was my old man, until I decided to get right with him and release that, because it was only hurting me. He's been gone for a long time. So anyway, tonight, we're going to get into the next step. It's the next question, and it follows the first one. Do you want to get well? If you say, yes, Jesus, I want to get well, then we're going to pick up and just listen. You can read it on your own later. This is Matthew 20, 29, 34. It says, as Jesus and his disciples were leaving Jericho, a large crowd followed him. 2 blind men were sitting by the roadside, and when they heard that Jesus was going by, they shouted, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. The crowd rebuked them and told them to be quiet, but they shouted all the louder, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. Jesus stopped and called them. What do you want me to do for you? He asked. Lord, they answered, we want our sight. Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes. Immediately they received their sight and followed him. Okay, so we're going to see in the course of this project that there's a number of people that Jesus goes to that have the same issue, and it's blindness. That he seems to have a special affinity for that type of healing. And I happen to believe that it's the most drastically life-changing healing of all the other ones, whether it be, I can't imagine what paralysis would be like. I can't imagine what not being able to hear, to speak. I can't imagine, the bleeding disorder, the blood disorder that the woman had, the different things. Oh gosh, she raised the dead. Can't imagine that one. But there's something about eyesight. Without it, all the other senses, from what they say, get very, very acute. Your hearing and your taste and your smell and your touch. But when Jesus would give somebody their eyesight back, can you imagine? Trying to just really imagine what all this was. So he's going through, and he's got crowds around him and everybody shouting at him. You talk about kind of like when somebody's walking into a courthouse and there's all the paparazzi and there's all the reporters and everybody shouting questions at him, and you're just trying to get through the crowd. It was that on steroids, so Jesus trying to get from one place to another. But then all of a sudden he hears one thing. Now, one of the other things that we're going to talk about is the reticular activating system. It's a part of the brain that's in the primitive brain, and it allows you to notice things. I talked about it, I don't know, maybe last week, and it's like, the car is the easiest example, but it can be, anything, a certain sign, or it could be a certain whatever is relevant that Uncle G is now looking for without asking your permission, and brings your attention to things. Here, Jesus, out of all those cries, he hears one. Actually, it was two, these two brothers, friends, whatever they were. And they're yelling, Jesus, have mercy on us. That got his attention. Now, a lot of us and a lot of people get plenty of attention. Okay, I get more attention certainly than I deserve. And to the point where it's like, man, sometimes I feel like, I get so much encouragement like every day. People, and sometimes it's just kind of like, it can be embarrassing. It can be humbling. It can be like, man, you feel like a poser. But it's, that's why Jesus said the parts of the body that don't get the attention, they deserve special honor. And I know in this project, and I've done it enough where I've gotten enough feedback to know that there's some people out there that do not feel worthy. They do not feel like Jesus really pays attention to your prayers. You might feel like, well, he loves me, but he doesn't like me. You might feel invisible. You might feel like, man, if I left the church, nobody even know. You might feel like you don't have a voice. You might feel like you're less than. And I want to encourage you, Jesus is drawn to that. He's not drawn. I mean, the rich young ruler came to him. He got sent to Herod. The Pharisees were always following him around. So yeah, he was speaking to important people a lot of times, but he was drawn to those who had needs. He was drawn to the brokenhearted. He was drawn to the left behind, the less than, the marginalized, the ones that are not noticed in a crowd. I mean, he wasn't drawn to a person like me that's tall and loud and gregarious. And I mean, all that is like, no, you can't miss a guy like that. But to the one that's meek and maybe afraid or ashamed or very shy or not, naturally the one that's, getting all the attention or the social butterfly, but it's the majority of people. And I know this project sometimes can be a little overwhelming. And you look at other people and say, yeah, I mean, look at Steve and Martha, they're jamming, but then again, they always jam. Every time there's any kind of project, yeah, they're leading the pack. But that's not like me, And I want to encourage you, out of all the crowds and all the people that were trying to get at him, he heard that voice, have mercy on me. And I think when we get to that point where it's like, I've got no other options, I've tried everything. My way hadn't worked. I got one shot, and here he comes. Somehow those blind men, they knew Jesus was coming through. I mean, the word spread. He could hear people yelling. And all of a sudden, this was their shot, and they start shouting as loud as they can. I believe they were willing to do whatever they had to do to get their shot. But I want you to imagine, Jesus, if it's you and you're crying out, okay, this is our prayer life, okay, we're going to cry out for things that scare us a little bit. I mean, this had to be scary for these dudes because they have been like that maybe their whole lives. We don't know. They connected with one another. A lot of times misery loves company, or you're going to, connect with somebody that has the same type of weakness as you do or whatever. But there was something about their cries, about their desperation, about their brokenness, about their helplessness that moved him. So I don't want you to be afraid of this. It's like, don't you think that he wants to know what it is? It's not like he doesn't know. But just like the paralytic by the little pool in Siloam, he comes to these guys and he asks what would be, you would think is the most silly question. It's an obvious question. What would you like for me to do for you? And these guys are obviously blind beggars. They have to rely on the kindness of other people. That's humbling. And I mean, brokenhearted. I mean, they weren't valued in that society or taken care of. And Jesus finds them and says, what do you want me to do for you? They could have said a lot of things. Okay, these are our general vague prayers. It's like, make me a better husband. What does that mean, really? I mean, how are you going to know when you get there? Send me some finances. Okay, well, if somebody gives you $1, all right, well, we got that one. I mean, how are you going to know when it comes? I mean, whatever is your pain spot. And I want to remind you, he chose to get personal with this healing. He said, what do you want me to do for you? And they said, we want to see. I mean, think about what a huge prayer that is. We want to see. And he said, according to your faith, may it be done to you. Okay, you, not everybody, just you. He's very personal and he's very intimate. That's why he likes to get face to face. And then it says he touched their eyes. I mean, think about that. Have you ever touched anybody's eyes? I've never touched anybody's eyes. I remember that thing we do when we were little. I don't know if y'all had it. I'm aging myself, where you lick your finger and walk up and put it in somebody's ear. Y'all are like, you're weird. You don't remember that? One of the sisters going like this. No, I don't remember that one. It was a thing. I guess we were little, but it's like, it was a joke. I mean, we've seen him touch someone's tongue. touched their ears, touched their eyes. I mean, he touched the leper. He likes to get up close and personal. And that's where miracles happen, when we are in an intimate place. And you're like, well, I just don't feel that way anymore. The sermons don't fire me up. The fellowship doesn't do it for me. Now, even my quiet times don't work. I don't know. I don't know. I've lost the ability to feel. The first place to start is to find some of that. Somebody said wet willy. That's exactly what it was. Thank you, Bill. Sorry, back to myself. So, but when you get to that place of desperation, if you're willing to get there, where it's not just I'd like this, and please take care of my neighbor. Keep praying for your neighbors, your children, your spouse, your coworkers. Pray for a job situation or a financial situation or a health situation. I get it. Those are all good things to pray for. Things that the church is doing, praying for your leaders. I get it. But I'm talking about the thing that if he walked up to you and looked you in the eye, and I'm talking about in your personal space. Imagine what his eyes look like. Have you ever thought about that? What Jesus' eyes look like? He said the eyes are the window to the soul, the lamp of the body. And if you're filled with light, oh my gosh, there's light pouring out of your eyes. But then again, if we're dark inside, because we've given up, we've lost hope, we don't have courage anymore, we feel sick, we're tired, we're weary, all the things that is the human experience, not just you, not just me, we. It's a matter of when you're going to get to that place where it's like, I got nothing else. I've tried everything, man, my little self-help things and my YouTube videos and my little Bible study, outlines, and you've tried all these things. You've gone to a brother or sister and you've confessed and you pray together, and yet this thing still remains. That's where I was. And that's where I still get to sometimes. Absolutely. Some of these things are going to be a lifelong pursuit of healing, but you'd be amazed when we get to that, Son of David, have mercy on me. I mean, the last couple of days have been a couple of quiet times I needed to have, because I've been wrestling with fear. And it has to do with fear of the future, fear of my ministry. There's a lot of, it's heavy and you've got to drive it and you've got to fundraise for it and you've got to keep on fighting. And sometimes, the battle gets kind of weary, and I've had to really wrestle with him and practice what I preach. But if he looked in your eyes and you saw that light just coming out of his eyes, and he asked that question, I want you to not act as if, but know that he's asking us, what do you want me to do for you? Not for her, not for him, for you. How do you answer that question? That's what needs to be on your impossible prayer list. I mean, there are a lot of different areas that we can pray about, but tonight we're getting personal. And, you've got to decide how to answer. I've thrown out a lot of different options of things. It could be a sin nature. It could be a sin stronghold. It could be fear that is crippling you. It could be unforgiveness. You might need to forgive yourself. You might feel unworthy. You might feel like, man, I've been out of this thing for so long and nobody knows. You could just be in a state where you need him to touch you, where it hurts. That's where he's going to touch. Where does it hurt? A doctor says that. Where does it hurt? I don't know how to treat you if you don't tell me what's going on. And you're like, man, I ain't talking to anybody about this. Good, don't. This isn't a pressure kind of, you need to do this. No, it's just you and him right now. No shame, no guilt. Just going to him and saying, hey, this is your shot. And then pick a thing. You'll be amazing, or be amazed. We've got basically 4 quadrants. We've got mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. I would encourage you, this is on top of that one thing, pick one of those areas. Man, I'm going to go to war physically. I mean, I've been talking about it forever. I'm going to do it. And you really, if you need accountability, if you need a guide, if you need whatever it is, but you finally say, I'm going to deal with this, I'm going to tackle it, you'll be amazed about just one quadrant affects all the other 3. When you start feeling good about yourself physically, it helps you mentally, helps you emotionally. All of that translates to spiritual health. If you decided mentally, I've got to break through, I'm going to really start exercising my mind in a new area. And I'm really going to go to work on this thing. I'm going to learn about what it is that I don't know what it is, but you do. You work on that one thing and you'll be amazed how that translates into emotional health and physical health, and it all leads to the spiritual. Same thing with emotional. It could be a relationship, or it could just be, man, I'm depressed. I'm just depressed, and I haven't really admitted it to myself, or I haven't been willing to take a step with that one thing that you choose, that you would say, if you could only be one, if she says, what is one thing that you want? He already knows what it is. You don't have to, you're not going to stump him. You're not going to surprise him. You're not going to scare him. It's like he knows what your thing is before you even say it. But when you go ahead and say it, and I'm telling you, if you write it down, it becomes real. Something magical. People been, get an app, make an app. People don't like to write anymore. I'm sure I'm going to have to make an app. But right now, there's a reason that it's old school, because when we put paper and pen together and start drawing little characters, and that's all they are, is little shapes and characters that have meaning, and then your eyeballs see what you have just done, and it creates a loop, and it becomes real to you instead of just daydreaming about, I wish I could change. Sometimes you have to bring new energy into something you're trying to change. Instead of guilt doesn't change anything. Sadness, sometimes there's a time to be sad, but when it's time to change, you need indignant, if you ask me, indignation, a little righteous anger, like I am dealing with this once and for all. And you might have to say it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. But I'm trying to bring new energy into the areas of my life that I really, really want to change. And you'll be amazed. Now, once your eyesight is open, that's where we're going to go to kind of, wrap up tonight, is we're going to go to Paul. And Paul's ministry, besides the ministry of Jesus, and I love the Gospels more than anything else, and then the ministry of Paul speaks to me so much. There's so many similarities to the ministry that God called me to the least of these, to the prisoners, to the poor, to the homeless, to the ones that nobody sees and nobody values. That ministry, Paul had one that's very similar. And tonight, I'm going to read, this is each week, what I'll do is I'll pick a question. Well, we'll do the next question in the book and really just kind of nail that one down. And I'm going to ask you to work the steps around that issue. Okay, if let's say it's a physical thing. All right, when you hit your knees, first thing in the morning, doesn't have to be long, but you can say, please give me strength in this area today. You're setting it first of mind. Okay, you write it down when you journal and say, Father, I like calling him Abba, it makes me feel closer to him. You say, I really need help today in this area. Please help me with my blank. Give me resources, give me ideas, give me energy, give me thoughts so I can help. Okay, so now you've done 2. 3, carry it with you throughout the day. I don't care if you got to tie a string around your finger, or if you got to carry your book around, whatever it is, keep it front of mind. Uncle G will help you. And then you realize that today I am working on this. And everything I do, help me see, open my eyes so I can see opportunities and threats. And then take a measurable step toward it. Don't do like a New Year's resolution where it's like I'm going to do this. And then, by day 4, you're just back in. Uncle G did not release the habit. He's holding on to it for dear life because that's how he was created. It takes about 28 to 30 days to break a habit, start a new one. I thought 40 was better because it's a divine number that has to do with transformation, which is kind of cool. So let's go into this. This is out of 1 Corinthians 9, and it'll make sense in a minute. 19. Now, really just hear Paul. He says, though I'm free and belong to no one, I've made myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. To the Jews, I became like a Jew to win the Jews. To those under the law, I became like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law. To those not having the law, I became like one not having the law, though I'm not free from God's law, but I'm under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak, I became weak to win the weak. I've become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. This is one of the most fundamentally profound things that God hit me with after preaching for years and years and years and being a part of this thing. And, for a long, long time, decades, it was like I had never seen it before. And he said, look at it from a new perspective. He's talking about winning people. Okay. So we talked about Jesus saying, what do you want me to do for you? All right, this is it. Well, now I want you to also turn outward and think about others, because this is a very personal, selfish is not the right word, but it is that type of internal project. But we also have to remember, who we are and our purpose. And this is foundational for me. He says, to the Jew, I became a Jew. All right, he knew how to do that. He was raised a Jew. But then he said, to the Gentile, I become a Gentile so that I can win the Gentile. To the Greek, I become a Greek. I can do that too. He was intellectual. But then he says, to the weak, I became weak. Why? So I could win the weak. I have become all things to all men so that I might win some, so that I can save some. Now, becoming the other is really, I'd look at it like a superpower that you can have. I mean, it's like the secret about how to win people, because it's the whole game. And I'm not talking about just get somebody to come to church. I'm not talking about just get somebody to study the Bible. I'm not talking about somebody to be baptized and become a member of the church. All of that is, go make disciples. I get it. But I'm talking about winning people. Paul could have just been the ex-Pharisee that now was the apostle, and he was going around just preaching the gospel. That would have been fine, and we'd have been like, Paul's a beast. He didn't do it like that. He said, when I was with you, I preached with fear and trembling. We don't see Paul that way a lot of times. When he was in the jail in Philippi, he became the prisoner and had them singing songs. Do you see that? He wasn't preaching at them to try to change them. He became one of them. To the poor, he became poor, just like Jesus, one of them. To the Greek, he went into Athens and he spoke their language, man. He could go there too. I'll become the intellectual. Why? To win the intellectual. How do you win a person? You become them. I can't remember if I've told y'all this, but it's absolutely true. It sounds funny. I don't find it that hard to bring Crips and Bloods together in a prison. I know how to do it. I mean, it's just like, you ought to see it. I mean, it's an amazing thing. But I'd have a much harder time bringing Democrats and Republicans together. They're both red and blue. Crips are blue, Democrats are blue, Republicans are red, Bloods are red. But like I said, you can bring the least of these together. It's us out in the free world that it's like, here's the answer. To the Republican, can you become the Democrat for a minute and realize that that brother, that sister, that friend has just as good a reason as you for what they believe? And you'll never really win their heart and mind. And I'm not saying win them over to my side. I'm talking to win them as a friend. If you're not willing to walk with them and feel them. I marched with Black Lives Matter, not because I'm BLM. They invited me and they asked me to speak at Juneteenth. What am I going to say? No. I walked with them and I took a lot of flack from that. Oh, kids, Black Lives Matter. I'm like, I don't know, to Black Lives Matter, I became Black Lives Matter to feel and win the Black Lives Matter. But I also spoke at the Georgia Sheriff's Association, which was just a bunch of good old boys in Georgia. Now, why did I do that? Oh, he's a MAGA. No, I'm not. I was asked to speak. Why would I not? To a bunch of white sheriffs in a southern city. Well, you can't peg me. He's Black Lives Matter, man. He's this, he's that. No, I'm not. It's like I couldn't be more in the middle, and I get to work with both sides beautifully. And it's not easy, but well, no, it is easy. It's not that hard. I think all it takes is humility. I hate it when we get to these parts of the season of life that we're in, and we're getting ready to go into a very contentious election. And people are so easily offended. And a lot of people, now don't get me wrong, these are very important issues. These are things that people will die for, both sides. And regardless of which way you lean politically, I'm just going to ask you, to the Democrat, could you become a Republican for a few minutes to feel them, to ask questions and really listen? And I'd say stay away from politics, but I'm just saying, walk with the other before you judge. That has made all the difference for me in this crazy ministry. And then he says, to the weak, I became weak. I missed that. I could get the Jew, the Gentile, the Greek to the Pharisee I become. But how often do we go to a weak person and try to get them to be strong? Come on, bro. You just got to be strong. You can do this. Come on, sis. Just pick yourself up. You can do this. Just pray more. Just study harder. Just go and, blah, blah, blah. It's like, to the weak, he became weak. You go visit with the weak. You're kind to the weak. He had compassion to the blind man, which means he felt their pain. That's why he touched them. That's why he went to the least of these. That's where he loved to be, I feel like, the most. That's my favorite place to be, besides with my wife and my family. I love being with those fascinating people. You give me an opportunity to hang out with a bunch of rich, famous people or a bunch of just real least of these, and I'll choose the least of these every time. They're so much more fun. They're less boring. They're exciting. They're colorful. I mean, it's like there's transformative power in the least of these. I can't get closer to Jesus than that. I can get close to Jesus when I'm having my power time, or whether I'm at church, or whether I'm hanging out with some good friends. But when you're with the least of these, buckle your seatbelt. Your life is about to change, because without even meaning to, you start to become the other. You can see them. You can smell them. You can, in an appropriate way, if you get very friendly, you can touch them. I mean, even the most dangerous men. Man, I've gotten to work on death row in Alabama and Louisiana, and I've got pictures and artifacts that hang on my wall from death row friends. I've had 3 friends die on death row. It changes the way you see that. And I always have to say after that, do not get it twisted. There's horrible things that human beings have done. And the last thing I'm doing is taking that easy. I feel like, man, the more we help the prisoners, the less they're going to come back to our communities and hurt our loved ones. You see me? But it's becoming, you've got to get close enough to become the other. Whether it's race, religion. I've sat with gurus and imams and rabbis and shamans and been in temples and synagogues and mosques and just, Indian medicine men, did a sweat lodge and almost died. It's like God's given me the opportunity, and it's the most richest part of my life, besides my wife and my family, to be able to walk with people that are not like me. In this beautiful ministry God's given me, people don't look like me and talk like me. I get to hang out with people very, very different than me. And it's been the biggest blessing of my life. So I'm going to encourage you. This is kind of your homework this week. All right. It's answer the question, what do you want me to do for you? And work the steps on that. And then start looking at the world through a new lens. What do you want? I want to see. Help me see my neighbor today. Help me feel the people I'm around today. Help me care about the other that's less than me, meaning that I feel like I'm superior to them, and begin to feel them. Don't just go and throw a couple bucks at a homeless guy. Do that, but really in an appropriate setting, in service ministry. I wouldn't do it alone, but there's ways to befriend a homeless person. We live right off the square in our town of Marietta, and it's not hard at all to get to know all the homeless brothers. I mean, they're there. It's old Jack. He lies to me every time, but I love him. This other guy is Antoine. He's a guy that he talks to himself like all day long. He's just like one of those guys that you're like, wow. And then whenever I see him, He's like, hello, Kit. How are you doing? And I'm like, good, Antoine. How you doing? I'm doing good. How's it going? Pretty good. Can you help me out a little bit? Sure. Da, 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 da. And then I walk away and boom, he goes into his rambling and babbling and wherever he is in his headspace. But he snaps out of it. I think he very well could be an angel. I'm not sure. My point, because sometimes I actually have one. See humans different this week. Love somebody that doesn't deserve it. Treat somebody kind who is an angry person. Treat someone with compassion, especially the one that gets on your last nerve. That person that comes to mind right now, not in the church, outside of the church, that is the pain in your side. It's like, man, I just can't. We all got some people like that. Start to imagine why that they happen to be like that. Do they have an elderly parent that's just moved in with them that have Alzheimer's? Do they have a special needs child and they have to work 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and then go home? I went and met with a dear young friend of mine that has cerebral palsy, and he works on our team. He's brilliant. And I got to spend time with him today, and it was magic. Why? Because it's different than my walk. We don't know what the other person is going through. They might have a child that's hooked on heroin and they're scared to death. They might have a loved one that's locked up. They might have gotten a diagnosis that they don't feel comfortable telling everybody about, and they're scared to death. You don't know. Become the other, and you'll be amazed. I'll say this, and then we'll kind of wrap with one thought because I'm about out of my time. But you'll be amazed how people will let you in if you care. But we've got to earn the right for that person to let us in. Have you ever heard, it makes me shudder a little bit because I know I did it so much. You reach out to somebody and, they won't come to church, and you ask and ask and ask. And what happened to old Joe? Oh, he's not open. Oh, really? Okay. Well, what about that guy, Mike, you brought to church last week? And I think he started studying the Bible, right? Yeah. But he's not open. He's not open. I'm going to gently challenge you on that. Maybe he's just not open with you. Maybe we haven't earned the right to get into their private lives. Maybe they're going through some things that's going to take a whole lot more than a couple of invitations to church. But to say someone is not open, be careful. They might be going through, they might have a connection with God that we do not know about. We don't know what they're going through. They might be disillusioned. They might have gotten hurt. They could have been through abuse in a church. And now all of a sudden, because they won't line up and come with us, they're not open? No, they're just not open to me. Maybe I haven't earned the right. That's what I love about the ministry God's given me. It takes a year every week to win some of these kids. A year. Well, of course it does. Why should they trust me? They don't even know me. I'm a stranger to them. And I'm like, come on, get in line. Let's go. So I think that let's practice compassion this week. And especially with people that you feel like don't deserve it, because those are the ones that Jesus is drawn to. Final thought, Jesus said, become like the little children, or we'll never see the kingdom of God. Now, I don't look at that and go, uh-oh, if I don't become childlike, I'm going to hell. I don't see it like that. I mean, good Lord, who would make it among us? I think he is saying, unless we develop the mind of a child and see a child sees things that aren't there. They believe in magic. They believe in Santa Claus. They believe in the tooth fairy and the Easter bunny. They believe in this mysterious, it's like they can pretend. You can play these games of imagination. When you're little, it's this magical world that we grow out of. And Jesus is saying, nah, you need to grow back into that. And I want you to bring some levity into this particular project and start to ask God to let me see the world through the eyes of a child. Change my heart, because it's not through this process that he begins to work for us. He's been working around us and through us and in us and over us and behind us and underneath us and beside us. Our whole life, he's been stalking us. What we're asking for is new eyeballs Give me the eyes to see. And I want to see this world as a child does, and bring a playful spirit into this thing. I know we're going after scary, impossible prayers and we're trying to change our character, but there is a fun kind of playful spirit in this project where you're asking for signs. I love doing that. Show me a sign, give me a sign. And then he never disappoints. I think that my wife is on the line. Baby, you out there? I'm at my office. She's at home. Are you out there, baby?
Yes, I'm right here.
Do you have any wise, beautiful words here as we start to close out and I throw it back to James or Steve?
Oh, that's so sweet of you to ask. No, sir. I think you did a fabulous job. And yeah, let's wrap it up.
I like it. See, she's like, wrap it up and come home. Okay.
Well, I'm hungry too. And of course, I'm waiting on you to eat.
Man, she can throw down too, family. She's making beef stroganoff tonight, and I got to go. See ya. I'm just kidding. James, love you, buddy. Whatever, however you want to close it out or wherever you want to go from here. That's my time.
Awesome. Thank you once again. Great stuff. The idea of opening our eyes, kind of simple prayer, but a whole world opens up when you do that, when you're willing to see things differently. And I'm excited to pray that. And I like the call in the beginning too, or I guess the middle, about getting specific, because I think it is easy to pray those bold prayers that are broad enough where you're like, if it happens, awesome. But if it doesn't happen, then my faith isn't too hurt. But I think getting specific with it, making it personal, picking one of those quadrants, all that great practical stuff. I think that, to add to what we're already doing, I think is really helpful. And then to end with mind of a child, I'll tell you a quick story. My daughter today was trying on an old Halloween costume from last year. And I was like, darling, I don't think it's going to fit. And she looked at me and she goes, I believe in myself. And she squeezed into that costume and riding up on, way up on her legs, but she rocked it for a couple hours and played around the house. But I was just like, that is the mind of a child. It's just,
I love it.
I believe in myself. It's going to happen. And we can have that kind of faith in God and God's ability to, obviously, to use us. And we can't we can't believe in ourselves. We can't believe God can use us. And so that's what made me think of when you talked about opening our eyes, having the heart of a child. So I'm encouraged, and I hope everyone joining us tonight is as well. Just a reminder, the recordings are on the Pittsburgh Church YouTube page. You can check that out. I also wanted to make an announcement that Kit and I believe Terry as well are both coming up to Pittsburgh on October 25th, and they're going to do an extra Wednesday night for us. So that's a Wednesday night. So Pittsburgh Church, we are going to meet in person over at Element Church. And of course, Frederick or State College are welcome to join, but we will live stream that Wednesday as well. And that'll be the teaching, the Hope in Action. Is that right, Kit?
Yes, sir.
So a new series or a new teaching aspect that they are launching, dealing with mental health challenges, dealing with divorce, dealing with just greater hope, dealing with addiction. Everything I've heard is that's going to be awesome, and it's going to be really helpful and a cool exclamation point on our series here. So the date of that is October 25th, which is a Wednesday night. And again, for the Pittsburgh Church, we'll be at Element Church, and invite your friends to that. What a great opportunity. And then Frederick and State College will be live streaming that. So on top of the 40 Days of Prayer series, we'll have one extra Wednesday for those that want to join as well. It's going to be a great time. And thank you. Side note, Kit and it's just for Natalie's birthday. Kit and Terry are leaving time with their family in DC to drive over, do this, and then go back. And so I really appreciate that. And we're grateful for that. Really grateful for you guys. So keep going 40 days of prayer, get down on your knees and pray in the morning tomorrow. And it's going to be awesome. So to end right, we're going to end on prayer. And I've asked Natalie here from Pittsburgh to close us out in prayer since her birthday is October 25th. So we're honoring that.
There you
Go
go.
ahead, Natalie.
It is indeed October 25th. Okay. Hi, God. Thank you so much for this time just to gather together as family, despite the distance between all of us. Yeah, I'm just grateful to be reminded of how powerful you are, God, and how, yeah, just not to put you in a box of with our prayers or how much you can do, God, or the miracles that you still do today. I pray even just for everything that we've heard tonight, God, that we really can just take it with us the rest of the week, Father, that we can really love the least of these and be intentional to love even the people who are, just that are a little difficult to love at times. But yeah, I pray that you can just continue to remind us that you're with us and yeah, just of all the miracles that you're doing around us, that we can have eyes to see. But yes, we love you and pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Yeah, we can't wait. We hope we get to see everybody in person. I know we'll be talking about it, but we want to meet you. You guys have been so warm already to us. So love you guys. We will look forward to seeing you next week. Already miss you. I'm gonna go eat some beef stroganoff.
Amen.
Enjoy.
See y'all.
Bye, hon.
Love you, hun.
Love you.
Have a great night, everybody.
You also. Take care, everybody.
Night all.
Yeah.
All right, good night.
Good night, gang.